All right, I'm going live on my page now, and then I'll try to share that. Okay, cool. I think we are live now in the Entrepreneurial Accountants group. Guys, if you're just now tuning in, just give us a couple minutes to get everything set up here, and we'll get started in just a few.
Yeah, I see it on my end.
Okay, cool. All right. Just going to try to put a link in the comments here, and then I think we're good to go. All right, guys, welcome. We've got a few of you guys on Facebook Live now. We've got a few of you guys tuned into Zoom. So, Veronica, you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. Let's do this. Well, welcome everyone. And if you're just getting started, that's great. Just tuning in. So we are going to be talking to you about pricing today. And we don't have any PowerPoint slides or anything like that. We wanted to keep it conversational and just have an honest, frank discussion about some of the challenges we face, some of the things that have happened to us that have caused us to change our mindset about pricing. So real quick, before we get started, let's do introductions. For those of you who don't know Veronica, she is amazing. She's got quite the resume. She is a top 100 QuickBooks Pro advisor for 2 years in a row now. Her firm, Wasek CPA LLC, they were a top 20 finalist in Intuit's 2015 Firm of the Future contest. She's a member of Intuit's Trainer Writer Network, a member of Intuit's Accountant Council for both 2016 and 2017, and her blog, 5minutebookkeeping.com, that was recently named the #1 blog, and it's been named a top bookkeeping blog by several publications for the past 2 years. So Veronica, if you would, could you just tell us a little bit about what you guys do and why you do what you do?
Absolutely. So yes, I am the CEO of Wasek CPA, and we specialize in outsourced cloud accounting services for service-based companies throughout the United States. We especially like to work with creative agencies, creative business owners, visionary business owners. We tend to connect very well with those types of clients. We specialize in QuickBooks Online and integrated cloud applications. And we are a CPA firm, but we don't really do any of the traditional audit, reviews, that sort of work, and no taxes. So have a very happy life, not doing any of that. Sure. And why do I do what I do? Well, I actually started my business I was a victim of the Great Recession 7 years ago, and more than that, I started the business 7 years ago, and just wanted to really reinvent the accounting firm. I just didn't like that the whole having to deal with all of the deadlines of deadlines coming before clients, and so I set out to create a lifestyle accounting practice where, I really love what I do. I love my clients. So the number one goal was reinvent the accounting firm. And now my second goal is really to make a lasting and meaningful impact in how small business runs throughout the world. So empowering business owners on the financial side of their business, as well as just in business in general, helping them to be better business owners.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you for that. For you guys who don't know me, my name is Ben Brown. I'm a self-employed accountant. I've been self-employed for about 2 years now. It'll be 2 years on the 29th of this month. In December 2015, I bought a bookkeeping and tax firm from a retiring CPA in my hometown. It's a very small rural town. It's Portageville, Missouri. We're a town of about 3,000 people. There are maybe about 30,000 people within a 30-mile radius, so very rural area. And whenever I, bought the firm and got in there, I realized that my opportunities for growth were going to be limited, so especially locally. So what I did was I got serious about the idea of trying to find virtual clients. And over the past 18 months or so, I went through that first tax season. And then in May 2016 is when I really started thinking about this. June 2016 is when I started implementing. So about the past 18 months now, I've been able to scale my firm, and we do a little bit of everything, but we focus on dentists and self-employed dentists, dental practice owners for the virtual business. And I've been able to scale that business using digital marketing, mostly LinkedIn, and also a consultative selling process where we get a prospect on the phone, we learn about their problems, and we see if there's any way that we can be the solution to those problems. So that's a little bit about Veronica, a little bit about me. And when Veronica and I were talking about this live training actually was the result of, we had an excellent video call last week or the week before where, we had a heart-to-heart. I think we went for about an hour and a half, just kind of, talking about all the things that we'd run into. And we said, let's put a training together on this because, we both had different journeys as far as pricing is concerned. But one of the things that we both agreed was extremely important, and it's kind of foundational when you're talking about pricing, is mindset. So Veronica, if you would, could you tell us a little bit about how your pricing has changed over the years from when you first started and how that's evolved and where you're at now?
Sure. So, there's two aspects I think that I've dealt with in my pricing. One is the mindset and the truly the anxiety attacks that I would have in getting pricing together for prospects. And early in my business, I always knew that I wanted to do fixed pricing. I think that was just the result of the again, being a victim of the Great Recession, that clients really wanted to know what their pricing would be. So I always knew that that's the direction that I wanted to go in. But initially it would take me like a week to 2 weeks just to provide a proposal to someone, because it just would take me so long and I'd struggle with it so much. So that was initially from a mindset standpoint where I was emotionally with my pricing. And then as far as the methodology, I think I have tried everything from estimated number of hours to just making something up, looking at what were other people doing and sort of trying to copy that, learning from Ron Baker, from Mark Wickersham, and really getting to a point, I think, where I really had to find what works for me and not necessarily having to do what everybody else is doing.
Right, definitely. It is key. It's easy to fall under the influence of other people and think that you have to do it just like they're doing it because, whenever we have those kind of standardized models, for sure. So whenever I first bought my firm, kind of my journey with it has been, I bought an existing firm, like I said, and we had about 50 monthly bookkeeping clients. And they were all on a fixed pricing model, but the problem was the prices were really low. Most of our monthly bookkeeping clients were $100 to $300 per month. And the firm that I bought had been around since the 70s. It had had a couple different owners, but a lot of our clients had been with us a long time. And for whatever reason, maybe the previous owners weren't comfortable charging what they were worth. So that's kind of the situation I found myself in, is, having an established monthly bookkeeping client base, but the prices just weren't right. And I didn't really see an opportunity to raise pricing very much on my existing clients. So I set out to get brand new virtual high paying clients to grow my business that way. And whenever we're talking about mindset here, something that Veronica and I both agreed on was the concept of reverse engineering, right? So starting with the end in mind and then working your way back from that. So what is the ideal version of your firm? If you could create the firm, if you could build a firm from the ground up, what would your pricing be like? How many clients would you have? So something that I think is important and that I've done for our firm is we've decided on a minimum monthly fee for our bookkeeping services. And then we asked ourselves, what kind of clients can afford those fees? So for me, whenever we were coming up with this, and that's because each new client is an added layer of complexity. It's an entirely new relationship that you have to manage and that you have to stay on top of. So one of the things I think is key when you're thinking about pricing and you're thinking about mindset is you have to come up with a minimum monthly fee for bookkeeping services. And it's okay if that's somewhat arbitrary. You have to ask yourself, what is it worth to you for each new monthly client that you're going to be taking on? And for us, what we decided is $500 a month was going to be our minimum monthly bookkeeping fee. And yeah, we know that we're excluding some clients, some of our potential clients, by establishing that minimum, but that's okay because we also know that there are plenty of clients out there who can afford to pay us that and are going to be willing to pay us that. So for instance, with my monthly fee minimum of $500 a month, I know that most of the time I'm going to have to work with businesses who do at least $500K in annual revenue or more. Those are the kind of businesses that are going to be able to afford the fees that I want. And Veronica, you had a great analogy about customers, Walmart and Target versus the Macy's and Neiman Marcus. Could you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So, one thing I learned in working for other accountants in other accounting firms, I worked for one CPA firm that I think every one of his clients paid about $300 a month for, $300 per tax return. Sorry. And I learned that, that's more of the Walmart kind of, I guess, idea of who do you want your clients to be, and nothing wrong with Walmart. Walmart is very successful, makes a lot of money, but then you have to make it up in volume. And then I worked for another CPA firm that they charge thousands of dollars for a month, even for their services, and because they were going for a very high-end clients. And, I may shop at Walmart and Target, but I know that my clients probably shop at more expensive stores. And also one thing I've learned, no matter what the economy is doing, there are always people paying for upscale services. So I think it's just a matter of figuring out who your ideal client is and then figuring out what that monthly minimum is. Because I know for me at some point, if I had a client paying $250 a month for bookkeeping, I was ecstatic. My goal now is $1,000 a month. That would be ideally, that's where I like an ideal client to be. But my minimum is $300 a month. So, again, it's just you have to decide what's your minimum, what does that client look like, and then go after those clients. And whether they're small or big or wherever they are, again, it's just be clear who your target audience is.
Definitely. You said two things there that made me think of something. When you talk about volume, there's kind of two general ways to approach the volume. I mean, the pricing equation, right? And that's, you can do high volume, low fees, or low volume, high fees. Mm-hmm. So I think for both of us, we've kind of decided that we want to do the low volume, high fees, where, like in $1 million firms in our math of sales spreadsheet, we talk about, you only need 20, 25 to 30 clients to gross $250,000 a year, 75 clients to gross $1 million a year. So if you're specific about what kind of clients you want to work with, and you reach out to those people directly to see if they're interested in working with you, I think that's totally doable.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you said something on our call the other day that I thought was super key. You said, stop pricing. We as a profession have to stop pricing our services like accountants and start thinking about it like our clients. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between those two mindsets, where the way we view our pricing and the way our clients view our pricing?
Sure. So, as accountants, we're very price sensitive generally. We do a lot of research. We have to really put time into thinking about, our decisions, especially financial decisions. And we work the numbers and look at all the options. But for me, my ideal client is not like that. They're not price sensitive. They just want me to take care of their problems. And so I started realizing that a lot of the stress that I was putting myself under in trying to price work was because I thought I was selling to myself. Like, oh, if somebody like me, if I was presenting this pricing to somebody like me, what would they think? But when I realized that I'm not selling to people like me, I'm selling to a business owner who just, they want it now. They just want, how much is it? Or do it now, fix it. That's the ideal client that I'm working with.
Definitely. I think it's key, as accountants, we work with numbers and ratios all the time. So I think we just feel like we have to justify pricing with, like you said, number of bank accounts, number of transactions, number of employees, and putting so many different factors in it to where, we get analysis paralysis.
Yes.
Where really we should just, have a simple model that we can use to gauge a fee, and then just decide on it, present the offer. And then another thing I was thinking about when we were preparing for this is something I think is so important is there's a lot of value to be had in just deciding on a price, presenting it to a client, and then you're able to understand what their objections are. And
right.
that's been a huge source of learning for me. As I've developed this, I have quoted, I've made a lot of mistakes when it comes to pricing. I've quoted too high, where I just scared someone off right off the bat. And then I've quoted too low, where I realized that, a month or two down the road, we needed to have another conversation about our fees. But I do agree that it's better to just decide on a price, present it, and then get feedback. And then, have a dialogue between you and the client about the value that's there, what your roles are going to be, and et cetera.
Yeah, and I think especially too, when you have a prospective client that, say, is somebody in your niche, person that you like, a person who's being very responsive to you, I'll try to work with them more than someone that, if I think we're not going to get along, they're probably just not a good fit, I'll probably move on, especially if they're being price sensitive. But again, I think you have to in some ways decide, again, who are you working with, and then what kind of concessions do you want to make with pricing. And I know we'll probably discuss that a little bit later about how we do that. So I'll say that for when we get to that topic of what kind of pricing concessions that I make.
Sure, definitely. And another point that you made me think of is, while we're still on the mindset topic, abundance versus scarcity, right? And scarcity mindset, I think it's something that we're just programmed with. And it's so hard to overcome that and to really understand how much abundance is out there. And that's something that I still struggle with. But, for me, going after self-employed dentists and dental practice owners, I know that there are between 40 and 50,000 of those here in the United States. And so if I only need 75 of them to gross $1 million in revenue, that's, that kind of helps put things in perspective. So, if you feel like right now, if you're struggling with your pricing and you feel that the only way is to do the high volume, low fees, I would really challenge you to, think about, the U.S. economy, $18 trillion a year, GDP, 70% of that is consumer spending. Also, small business spending falls into that 70%. That is a lot of goods and services that are being exchanged. And like I said, 40,000 dentists out there, I have to get, 75 of them. That kind of puts things in perspective. And I think that will give you the freedom over your mindset to be able to say, okay, I'm going to charge what I'm worth. And it's totally okay if I have to say no to people who aren't willing to pay those prices. They're just not a good fit. They're my ideal client. And you can move on and have the next consultation with the next potential client.
Yeah. And one of the things that I struggled with, and I think I finally learned to say no to people, is that I would feel bad for them. They would, because, I have my blog and a lot of people contact me and that are not necessarily that ideal client. And I would feel so bad that, I really have to help them. And I would take on work that I really shouldn't have. And I've just learned just to say that probably is not a project that I want to pursue right now. And so it sounds very positive, and I try to point them in the right direction. Another objection that I've heard from people is that, well, no, I have to work with those really small clients because, I'm passionate about helping small business. And I totally get that because I am too. And so I knew, though, in my firm that I don't want to work with hundreds of clients because of the level of quality and service that I want to provide. But I'm able to help thousands of people through my blog, because that's how many, that's the traffic that we get through our blog. So you can still help small business and help those smaller business owners through blogging, public speaking, whatever your platform is, and still provide value. But, to be very clear, then for the clients that come to through your company, through your business, again, who is that client and what is your pricing to help that particular client?
Definitely. I struggled with the same thing. Like, whenever I first bought this firm, I felt like everyone who walked in the door, I had to help them. And I did work that, I seriously undercharge for some people just because, once you get someone on the phone or, you're having a meeting with them and they do have problems, it is easy to get caught up in that mindset of, well, I have to work with them. I have to help them. But, again, that comes back to mindset and understanding that the way I've kind of grown to look at that sense is, if I take on someone who's not my ideal client and, I'm charging them $100 a month for bookkeeping, I'm not going to be doing them a favor. I'm not going to be providing them the same level of service that I would to my other clients. So that's something that has helped me kind of overcome that boundary of feeling like, and also the scarcity mindset that I was struggling with too, especially when I first started out and I was really focused on growing my firm. I felt like every client who walked through the door, I needed to help them, first of all, but I also needed to get paid.
Right.
So, but since then I've realized that there are a bunch of my ideal clients out there, and it's just up to me to find them and reach out to them and see if we can work together.
Right.
So another thing that you and I both agree on is fixed pricing. So will you tell us about, since you've implemented the fixed pricing, some of the benefits that you have seen in your firm, some of the efficiencies that you guys have because of it?
Absolutely. So first of all, with fixed pricing, I found that a client is much more willing to pay you more because they know how much they're going to be charged. So when I had a couple of clients that for whatever reason, we ended up doing something hourly. And after we did that, and you looked at how much I ended up charging versus what I would have charged had I known, had I been able to price that ahead, I would have charged more and that client would have paid for it. But instead, because we did something by the hour, first of all, I'm not getting paid until I do the work. And second, the client just complained the whole time about the 15-minute phone call, whatever it is, and having to write things off. So number one, just certainty for the client. And then number two, big benefit for me is cash flow. So being able to then do fixed pricing and getting paid in advance, taking either our monthly clients paying at the beginning of the month through credit card or ACH, or our project clients paying 50% down before we start the engagement.
Right. So for all of your monthly clients, then you don't have any receivables, right? Because you're getting paid the first of the month for that month, even though the work's not being completed till the following month.
Exactly. My receivables are under 7 days.
Awesome.
Always. Yeah. For overall. Yeah.
All right, cool. And for some of you guys who are wanting to move over to, first of all, we are just we did not at first, but we have since transitioned to that same model. We have all of our clients on ACH. They pay the first of the month. So, for instance, January bookkeeping, they're going to pay January 1st, even though we don't complete the service delivery till February 20th. So, we're getting paid in advance for that. And whenever I first bought this firm, actually, we were really old school. We were mailing out invoices and we were waiting for checks to come in the mail. So that's how we did. Yeah. So that's how we did it. That was pretty old school. But so the ACH, just the sheer amount of time that we've saved by doing that, we didn't lose any clients through that process. We did have some question us about it, but we just told them, this is the way we're doing things now. It's going to make us more efficient, which is going to allow us to serve you better. So I think that's the way you say it right there. If you have any problems with that. And if you guys are looking for a sample ACH authorization form, you can download one at accountingdocumentvault.com along with some other templates there. So like you, Veronica, for your one-time projects that you do when you collect 50% up front, do you key in a credit card over the phone when you charge for those?
I don't, and just because we have a service agreement and that clients sign online, and then at the same time we just send them our online invoice. So they just handle all of that at the same time, and then we don't do any work until the service agreement is signed and the invoice is paid.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it totally depends. We do it that way too. I also accept a lot of credit cards over the phone, and I think we'll get to this here in a little bit. But actually, for all of my consultations, I do pricing over the phone and try to get a credit card payment over the phone. So if some of you guys don't have that set up, you can get an authorized.net account. I don't remember what all it took. I remember it being very easy. I think it's about $30 a month. Also, PayPal Payments Pro is another option for a virtual terminal. It's $30 a month. So if you guys are interested, in being able to charge up front for one-time projects especially, I like to collect payment over the phone via credit card for them. And then we'll send an engagement letter. But that's something to consider for you guys as well. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think I saw a question on the chat.
Okay.
I believe someone, let me see. From Darren, do you bundle tax return prep with your monthly fees?
Okay, Darren, I do not. So what we do is we have a separate engagement letter for monthly services that's updated every year, and tax prep fees are additional to that. So and that's because there are several reasons, but we just find that it's easier to do that. Some of our dental practices, they may change. They might have different things that make it a little more complicated that we can't quite predict when it comes to the tax situation. So tax prep fees are ones that we do collect payment over the phone via credit card for some of them. We'll also send an online invoice, but I do not bundle in tax prep with monthly fees. Whenever whenever I set up someone on ACH to do the monthly services, that's bookkeeping, payroll, those kinds of monthly tasks that we're going to be doing every month. And I also list services that are not included in the engagement. And I explicitly say that tax return and tax planning are separate engagements. So just to answer your question there, Darren. And okay, so Veronica, you do a lot of cleanup projects, right? You're a QuickBooks Online expert. So when someone has a really messed up QuickBooks Online file, you guys get a lot of referrals to do that kind of really in-depth work. So could you talk a little bit about pricing when you're not sure what the extent of the work is going to be, and charging for a paid analysis?
Yes. So I used to actually, when people would approach me for cleanup or catch-up work, I would look at the books for free and then give them my findings. And then I realized, why am I doing this? I mean, they are getting my expert opinion for what needs to be done for their book, so I should be charging for that. So I do a couple of different paid analysis. So if it is related to on the accounting side of things, the catch-up, the monthly services, then we just do a paid analysis of their QuickBooks. So whether it's for catch-up or cleanup or monthly services. And I also have people approach me for projects like where they're trying to get more out of QuickBooks, or integrating it with other applications, or getting or figuring out some problem that they have with their workflows. Then we do a paid needs analysis. So in essence, I'm able to then diagnose all the problems and get paid for it before we do any of the work.
Right.
And then the prospective client, at least, if it's someone that values that expert advice that we're providing, and then understands that at the end of that project, then I will give them upfront pricing. If they're price sensitive, they're probably going to walk away. And again, that's not the ideal client for me. And but if they value the expertise and understand that, yes, they should pay for that. And then I also give them a range of, okay, usually when we clean up a client, it ranges from X to Y, and so they already have an idea about how much it would cost. But it really takes all of the risk out of the equation for me, because I think that's where the risk, as for us as accountants being more risk sensitive, is, well, what if I don't charge enough? And I find, and maybe just because I refined my pricing skills over the years, that it's rare that I don't charge enough. But worst case scenario, I'm covering my cost. But generally, we are very profitable in how we charge. But it does, you have to go on that journey again of really addressing your fears, addressing that insecurity about your pricing, and what I found is, I can get paid to diagnose somebody's problem and then give them that upfront pricing and have a pretty good idea about what the effort and time and expertise that it'll take to get that work done.
Definitely. And very, very related to that. Something I was thinking about when, preparing for this is I know we both like fixed pricing and try to use it in everything we do. But I also ask myself the question, when should you use hourly pricing? Even though, we're converts to the fixed pricing, and I would say there are, really one, maybe two scenarios. One scenario is if someone brings you something, a mess that's really complicated. Maybe they have, some serious tax problems going on, and you don't know the extent to what the scope of the work is going to be. Just like you said, if you can unabashedly and unashamedly, with no shame, ask for $350 or $500 an hour, and say to them, okay, I'm going to collect a retainer of $10,000. It's going to be $500 an hour, and we will reassess when that retainer is up. So really the only scenario in which I would want to charge hourly pricing is when it was something like that where the work was really complicated, and a high hourly fee